The Galactic Diner sat at the edge of Nexus Station, a grimy establishment where species from across the cosmos came to eat questionable food and forget their troubles. Megara wiped down table 17 for the third time that hour, her shoulders aching from the double shift. Her 6-year-old son, Hercules, waited for her in their cramped quarters 3 levels down, probably hungry. Probably scared. She was human, one of the few on this station, and that meant she got the worst shifts. The lowest pay and the most demanding customers. The door chimed, and Megara's heart sank. A Dracovian delegation swept in, their scaled bodies shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that marked them as royalty. At their center walked the Dragon King himself, Zerthaxis the Eternal, whose kind had conquered 14 star systems and reduced 3 civilizations to ash. "Table for 8, his translator device announced. Though his gravelly voice needed no enhancement to convey authority, Megara grabbed her datapad and approached, keeping her eyes down. Rule 1 of serving Dracovians: never meet their gaze. It was considered a challenge, and challenges ended with incineration. "Right this way?" "Your Majesty," she said, leading them to the largest booth. For 2 hours, she ran back and forth, fetching their meals raw zephyr beast. Crystallized methane drinks, and dishes that smoked with toxins that would kill most species. The Dragon King said nothing to her, treating her as furniture as expected. His entourage laughed and spoke in their harsh language about their latest conquest, a mining colony where they'd enslave the local population. Megara's hands trembled as she set down the final dish. She thought of Hercules, of his dreams to become an engineer, of the education she couldn't afford on her wages. She thought of the medical bills from when he'd been sick last month. Still unpaid, when the delegation finally stood to leave, Megara cleared the table with practiced efficiency. The bill had been 847 credits, a fortune. She checked the payment terminal, exactly 847 credits. Not a single credit tip, she wasn't surprised. Dracovians never tipped. They considered service species beneath such considerations, but then she saw it. Wedged under the Dragon King's plate was a small metallic cube, no larger than her thumbnail. She picked it up, her heart racing. It was warm to the touch, covered in intricate Dracovian script that seemed to shift and move. "What's her got there?" Her manager, a 4-armed centaurian named Grix, asked. "Nothing," Megara said quickly, pocketing the cube. "Just trash." That night, in her quarters, Hercules asleep in the next room, Megara examined the cube under her desk lamp. The symbols continued their hypnotic dance across its surface. She'd seen enough Dracovian artifacts in the station's black market to know this was valuable, but she had no idea what it did. She pressed the top. The cube unfolded like a flower, projecting a holographic star map into the air. A single location pulsed with red light coordinates in the Omega sector, deep in uncharted space. Below the coordinates, translated into standard, were 3 words: humanity's true home. Megara's breath caught. Every human in the galaxy knew the story, how Earth had been destroyed in the resource wars 3 centuries ago, how humanity had scattered across the stars as refugees, how they'd become the janitors and waitresses and miners of the galaxy. Always at the bottom, always forgotten, but there were legends. Whispers of a second Earth, hidden away, where humanity had stored its greatest treasures and technologies before the fall. Most considered it a fairy tale. The cube projected more information. Schematics for something called the Genesis Archive. Weapons that could level fleets. Technology that could terraform worlds. Medical advances that could cure any disease. And coordinates to reach it all. The Dragon King hadn't forgotten to tip. He'd left her the most valuable thing in the galaxy, but why? A secondary file activated. It was a message, the Dragon King's face appearing in miniature. "Human female," his voice rumbled. "I am dying. My physicians give me 3 solar cycles. In my youth I conquered worlds, destroyed species, built an empire on bones. I did what dragons do: we take, we burn, we rule." His eyes, ancient and terrible, stared out from the hologram. "But I have watched your kind. You survive what would break others. A Dracovian in your position would have poisoned my food or died trying to take vengeance. You simply served with dignity. Your species was nearly extinguished, yet you raised your young with hope. I saw the picture on your datapad, your boy drawing pictures of starships, dreaming of exploring. The Dragon King's expression was unreadable. We dragons have a saying, the meek shall inherit nothing. For we will take it first, but perhaps we are wrong. Perhaps it is not the strong who deserve the stars, but those who remain kind even when the universe gives them every reason to be cruel. He leaned closer to the recording device. Use this wisely. Megara-chan, I looked up your name in the station registry. This cube cannot be traced, cannot be taken by force, will only respond to your genetic signature and your son's. Inside the Genesis archive is everything humanity needs to rise again. Not as conquerors like my kind, but as whatever you choose to be, the hologram flickered. Consider this my tip for 300 years of service your people have given to the galaxy. And perhaps my apology. The message ended. Megara sat in the darkness, the cube's light casting shadows on the walls. In the next room, Hercules stirred in his sleep, murmuring about spaceships and adventures. She thought about the coordinates, about the impossibility of reaching the Omega sector, about the danger, the risks, the fact that dozens of factions would kill for what she now held, but she also thought about her son's future, about every human scrubbing floors and serving tables across 1,000 worlds, about the species that had been kicked down for so long they'd forgotten how to stand tall. Megara closed her fingers around the cube and smiled. The Dragon King had left no tip on the table. But what he'd left instead would change everything. Tomorrow she'd quit her job. Tomorrow she'd start planning. Tomorrow humanity's journey home would begin. Tonight she'd let her son dream a little longer of stars. The end.